Hello, Dr. Shiny here. Have a tarot reading for Aquarius for the month of March. Hello, my Aquarian friends. Welcome back if you are returning, or welcome for the first time if you're new. I'm going to go ahead and get right into the reading. There are introductory videos on how I read the tarot cards and some information that might be good for you to get the most you can out of the readings. But other than that, I'm going to get right to it. So your current situation is the Eight of Coins, which suggests that you've been sort of diligently working away. You're in a state of apprenticeship, and that could be like not necessarily a real apprenticeship, but it could be metaphorical. So you're in the process of constructing the sort of best vision for your life, but you haven't really become the master yet. You're very adept. Like this is maybe the energy of like you've got your master's degree, but you still need that PhD. You know what I mean? So it's like you're extremely skilled, more skilled than most people, but there's still a little bit more that you can temper or hone. And there's the feeling that you need to temper or hone this a little bit more. It's not something that you're just satisfied with the level that you're currently at. This is working toward a higher goal. What's influencing you or crossing you, but I really think more influencing you in this particular situation, is the Knight of Cups, which is, of all the knights, it's a very feminine energy compared to the other knights. This one is in this artwork, and this is the Paulina Cassidy tarot. But in this artwork, this knight is riding a fish instead of a horse, and the horses kind of trample the ground and are domineering a little bit more, and the fish kind of like flows harmoniously with its environment. So this energy that's influencing you is based on feeling, it's based on emotion, and just sort of riding the wave of your emotion, not clinging to emotion too much, but to just like let them flow fluidly. And but it does have some sort of direction, so you're trying to navigate through using your feelings to a specific point, somewhere that you're trying to achieve. But you've sort of learned that you can't force things too much. You've got to sort of wiggle your way through, and so that's the situation that you're in right now. It's probably going to mastering the lesson that you're going to learn is probably going to have to involve taking a little bit more of a concrete stance on something. For your past, we have the Six of Coins. And on the Six of Coins, I'm thinking this means that sort of the situation that you're in is in some way the result of help or charity from another, which means I don't think of this so much, even though I use the metaphor of a master's and PhD. This doesn't seem to be something that you're achieving like as the result of going out and demanding or purchasing a service or something like that. This is a more of a personal development thing. So the situation is the direct result of like maybe being introduced to somebody by a friend, or being in the situation that you're in as the result of sort of the goodwill of another person, that kind of thing. Your future, where you're headed, if you can navigate what's influencing you, is the Page of Wands. So I'm seeing that you're going to, if you can learn to sort of like stand up a little bit more and assert your will just a little more, good news is going to come your way sort of unexpectedly. It's going to, instead of being a long drawn out process like you imagine, it's like once you make the decision, then the door opens and you realize that it wasn't really as difficult to obtain what you wanted as you thought. One of the sayings that I like to keep in my mind is that like once you've decided to truly decided to climb a mountain, the first step that you take, you're already there. And that's sort of what I visualize in my mind, that like it's just really a matter of time. It's also chaos magic or one school of thought regarding chaos magic is that a spell is really not something that's so ritualistic, right? Like with the candles and the pentagrams and things like that. But really what it is it's a meditation exercise where if you can visualize the process of getting from A to B, and B being the place where you want to go, and then find a way to make an action, and arbitrary action really, mean the same thing, and then do that action, it's almost the same as like going through that whole chain of logic that you imagine that you would have to go through. It's just like a shortcut in a way. And so this is kind of, I think, just a message of encouragement, saying that even though it looks like you've got a lot to iron out, a lot of decisions to make and that kind of thing, once you really make the decision to sit down and do it, it'll be a lot easier than you think it will be, you know. What I see in your subconscious, or like the root of this, the foundation of this situation, is the world, which is full God realization or awakening awareness. So very likely what's happened is perhaps recently, or maybe since you're young, you have awoken. But that doesn't mean that you necessarily have integrated all of this godlike understanding and information that you're getting into your actual life and behavior patterns. So what's happening here is that you are sort of learning one of the final lessons before you can enter the state of total serenity, of total, the Bible calls it peace that surpasses understanding, that kind of thing. So you're learning a final lesson, and even if you are like if you consider yourself a Christian, you may not have really understood the nature of what being a Christian means. So a lot of people don't really fully understand the paradigm of humanity as sinners, because if you are a sinner, then the church theologians would say, like, how can my desire to be righteous be anything other than a sinful desire, right? It's sort of like the logical equivalent of the statement, this is false. If it's a true statement, it's a false statement, and if it's a false statement, it's a true statement. So it's like a conundrum that you're stuck in. And even just, understanding the story of Jesus in the Bible and accepting that doesn't necessarily free you from that little dilemma that you're in. And as you develop spiritually, that dilemma has a way of materializing and manifesting in the physical environment in the form of challenge, and that could be the challenge of like finding true love or whatever. So that's a really specific interpretation. Sorry, sometimes I just get a little carried away. But what's on your mind is temperance. So you're sort of walking a tightrope right now. You're very aware that things have to be done in some sort of moderation, that you have to be careful not jump in fully without looking, and so this is perhaps why you're a little hesitant to take a firm stance in the situation. You are just trying to tread carefully, and that's good. That's perfectly okay. You've got all the time in the world in a manner of speaking. You don't have to rush yourself, but you do have to move. We'll put it that way. So just standing still is not going to work. But you are. It's very, very normal, very expected for you to be moving at a cautious pace, not fully assuming that you have the power that you really do have, or that kind of thing, because you don't want to burn yourself, so to speak. If you do something that you would find to be morally reprehensible, then that guilt will eat away at your psyche as you sort of raise your awareness and your vibration, your spiritual nature. As you learn to listen to your intuition, doing wrong things or things that you find to be wrong have greater consequences, and even if it's just psychological consequences. What I see for your advice in the current situation is the Four of Wands. So this is saying that you should focus on the good aspects of your home life, about how harmonious things are, and how really the current situation as it is doesn't have that many problems. So it's saying that maybe this challenge that you have in your mind is just to simply accept and be happy with what you have, to accept that you deserve it, to accept that you are worthy of it, because that's really one of the biggest challenges to ascension is we don't think that we're worthy. We don't think that we should be ascending. And so learning that we are holy, that we are worthy, is what gets us ascending. You know what I mean? And that's something that only comes through experience and learning and life lessons and situations. So, but for whatever reason, you should focus on this. You should focus on the situation's positives and how good everything is, and not go making mountains out of molehills, because that's gonna kind of stunt your growth a little bit. The current environment is the Seven of Coins, and that's abundance. Feels like good fortune. It feels like the stars have somewhat aligned for you. You and, well, in this artwork, the two figures are sort of like looking with a great deal of pride over the thing that they've created, the relationship that they've created, what a good job they've done. Maybe both of them didn't even think it was possible, you know what I mean? But here you are looking at the fruits of your labor, and it's like your dreams have somewhat come true, and that's where the guilt kicks in, because we think, oh, do I really deserve my dreams? Am I really that good of a person? And then you start to maybe think of some of your more nefarious motives, even at the beginning of this venture. And along the way, you've changed, and you can accept that. You can take the new. You don't have to cling to an old version of yourself. One of the ways that you get attacked psychically or by the devil or demons is to have your nose sort of pushed in your misdeeds of the past. Just because you've done something in the past, the past isn't what makes you. You're what makes the past. The past is like a wake traveling off the end of a boat. It's not the wake that creates the ship, it's the ship that creates the wake. So it's always up to you. If you have air in your lungs, you can be whatever you want to be. And so there's that. Now, your fears are the Page of Swords, okay? So this is saying that you may be keeping your thought process or your language is a little bit cryptic in this situation. You're not being totally straightforward. You're maybe beating around the bush or something, because you're fearing just cutting straight to the heart of the matter. Which is what this page will always do, is just, and you can see he's got his sword raised. It's like a thought that, you know what, I'm tired of the BS, I just want to know, or I'm just going to tell you what I feel, or that kind of thing. And you're a little bit afraid to do that, probably because temperance is very heavily on your mind, and discipline. So it's natural, I think, like I said, and it's just something that you're going to have to just keep in mind, that you have to keep moving forward, even if you're moving slowly and carefully. You can't just stop, because that's when you die. And I don't necessarily mean literally, but that's when your endeavor dies, right? That's when the fire in the relationship dies, or whatever it is. When the other entity senses that you have lost interest, they go away. They leave you. And if you haven't really learned the lesson by then, it's a tragic loss. So just like I said, you're going to have to make some big decisions. And think of it, I always use Bob Ross as an analogy. He talks about how, or if you watch, sorry, I'm getting over a little something. But if you watch how he paints, he'll do some section of shading, which is very, very natural and fluid and flowing. But then there will be times where he can't really shade anymore. There's not a subject on the screen, so he has to make a big line across the page. He makes a big decision and drops it in, and then uses that big decision and fleshes that out and works out the fine detail in a very natural flowing way once again. And that's sort of your advice for this situation is just keep in mind that while we want to be as natural and fluid and not forceful as possible, we still do have to move, you know, like we want to not impact our environment negatively, but we still have to eat and things like that. So moderation is key here, not total abstinence is the lesson for this. There's a Chinese painter who his method for painting is that he gets really drunk on like rice wine and dips his hair in ink and then sloshes the hair around on the paper, and then he looks at it for a while and meditates and decides what that landscape is going to look like, and then fills in the details. You see what I'm saying? So even big mistakes, or even if you say the wrong thing, you're going to get valuable feedback about how the person really feels, and that will perhaps change the way that you feel, you know, and so you'll be in a better position to know the right way forward, so to speak. Your overall message, or the outcome of the current situation, you're feeling a little melancholy, a little numb, and it's really just because of a lack of perspective. So I would follow that advice about, you know, making some sort of a big decision, saying something that will, if nothing else, provoke a response, because it will give you new insight on the situation. It will tell you information that you didn't know before, and it will be very valuable for you moving forward. It'll help you really know whether this is something that you're supposed to do one way or another. You know, it'll give you that sort of direction that you crave, because right now you're feeling a little trapped. Like this figure is in a little box there, and it's got 4 cups above his head, represent, you know, love and opportunities and abundance and everything. But instead of focusing on those, the figure is focusing on this little shadow of a heart, which is like his imagination, right? An idea for the future that you would like, but not necessarily the one that exists behind you, you know? So it's kind of like the idea of being in love with love, you know, that kind of thing. And if you want to take that idea out of the conceptual realm and put it back into reality, it's just going to take you actually grounding and asserting your will into the situation a little more. But wonderful reading. Really, that was helpful for me even. So I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you guys next month.